is the Capitol Rundown.
That $180 check that the governor said you were going to get, not going to happen.
I'm not even a candidate. I'm exploring it, and I'm already getting attacked by the National Republican Party.
We need a new generation of leaders that thinks differently, works harder.
Look at your watch and you'll know at what time the corporate kingdom finally came to an end.
It's all straight ahead. The Capitol Rundown starts now. Hello, and thank you for joining us. I'm Sherry Jones. U.S. Representative Elissa Slotkin is officially set to hit the 2024 campaign trail, and her sights are set on fellow Democrat Senator Debbie Stabenow's seat in Congress. The news comes just 1 month after the sitting senator said that she would not run for her 5th term in 2024. Democratic senators hold a very slim majority in Congress after last year's election, making the fight for the seat that much tougher. In her announcement, Slotkin reiterated that her focus remains on tackling high health care costs, gun violence, and encouraging American manufacturing. Stabenow says while she does not make any endorsements before the primaries, she calls Slotkin a strong candidate. She added that she's confident that whomever takes her seat will represent Michigan's values.
This is why I'm running for the United States Senate. We need a new generation of leaders that thinks differently, works harder, and never forgets that we are public servants.
Obviously, it's really important to me, being the person who has fought for Michigan all these years and lived in Michigan my whole life, that we have somebody really good that will pick up the torch.
Slotkin joins the race after the Republican member of the State Board of Education, Nikki Snyder, announced her run. She'll face political newcomer Michael Hoover, who also says that he's in the race. Well, staying on the campaign trail, Lansing Mayor Andy Shore says he might be running for U.S. Congress. The announcement comes a day after Representative Slotkin announced her intention to run for Debbie Stabenow's Senate seat. The 6th-year mayor says he put together an exploratory committee and that he plans to weigh all of his options. Shore stated that he wants to make sure that he has the support needed to run before officially throwing his name into the contest.
I'm not even a candidate. I'm exploring it, and I'm already getting attacked by the National Republican Party and by the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy. I'm a centrist that works with people to get things done, and I want to talk to the folks and see if they think that's what they want.
In the meantime, former Republican State Senator Tom Barrett, who ran for the seat in 2022, is strongly considering running again. Kyle Malin of the Michigan Information Research Service says Democrats, including Ingham County Clerk Barb Byram, former State Senator Curtis Hertel, State Representative Angela Whitwer, and Senator Sarah Anthony may also consider joining the race. State lawmakers make a few decisions this past week that directly affect voters across Michigan. We'll have that, and we'll take a look at what lawmakers had to say and which Michigan resident might make a run for the White House. Don't go away. State lawmakers were busy this week approving and denying various bills, including if voters would receive $180 checks. Plus, a familiar face could be throwing their hat into the presidential ring. To catch us up on the state's political scene is our Capitol correspondent, Tim Skubik.
Busy week in our town as lawmakers were busy passing stuff and also blocking stuff. That $180 check that the governor said you were going to get, not going to happen. The legislation passed without that money because the Republicans said we don't want you to do it. And so instead it looks like, unless the governor pulls a rabbit out of her hat, the income tax rate at some point will come down with some savings to you. The overall package of tax relief for senior citizens and needy families, however, remains intact. She's going to sign that. And so there is some tax relief, but that $180 check apparently is not going to materialize. Now, the Michigan Senate also, in a historic vote for the first time in 40 years, 3 Republicans joined the Democrats to basically change the state civil rights law to include a ban on gay people being fired from their jobs because of their sexual orientation or being booted out of their homes or apartments because of sexual orientation. This measure now goes to the Michigan House. It will pass there. The Democrats are on board, and this one the governor will sign. It was on their agenda when the Democrats took control. They promised the LGBTQ community they would do this, and now they are. And so it's been a busy week. A lot of stuff still pending, like the governor's budget, but they're making progress, and we'll continue to keep an eye on it. A lot of folks in this area remember Mike Rogers because he was the state senator from this area, and then for a time, 14 years as a matter of fact, he served in the Congress serving mid-Michigan. He was out of politics from about 2014 until right now. And now what is he doing? Well, he's going around the country and he's talking about trying to change the tone of the political rhetoric in our country. He basically says it's not working. Now, this idea of attacking people and then trying to get positive hits on your Facebook or your Twitter account because you attack the other guy or person that you might be running against. He says it is time to stop that. As a corollary, however, as he is doing that, the possibility, underscore the possibility, of him running for the U.S. Senate or for President of the United States has also come up. When we interviewed him earlier this week, the question was, are you interested in being president? His answer is, I haven't said no, but I haven't said yes, which is basically he's on the fence. Here's what my inside sources tell me. He's on a trajectory to make a decision, yea or nay, on the White House bid probably by June. He has been in conversation with the big money people in the Republican Party, and their number one objective is to keep the number of candidates running for president at a small number, because they've concluded if there's 8 or 9 people running for president and Donald Trump is in this race, and indeed he is, he wins because he's got 25 to 30% of the vote to start out. Now, the question is, Mr. Rogers, if you get in, does Donald Trump scare you out of the race? His answer was a resounding no. Quote, if I decide to run, there isn't anybody that can prevent me from running. So keep your eye on Mike Rogers. He's making the rounds. He's been to New Hampshire. He's been to Iowa. And now he's been to Michigan all week. He may have the bug. We don't know for sure. It's a maybe at this read.
All right, thank you, Tim. We're going to follow that one for sure. Coming up, gun control remains a hot topic among the state legislature, and this week the discussion prompted gun control advocates to hold a rally at the state capitol. We'll take a closer look at both of those when we come back. Thanks for watching the Capitol Rundown. It's been nearly 3 weeks since the shooting at Michigan State University that claimed the lives of 3 students and critically injured 5. Well, this week, students, community members, and lawmakers gathered to continue their call to action for what they say is common sense gun legislation. Our Nate Salazar was on hand to hear where everybody stands on the issue.
You are worth fighting for because your life matters and your future matters. Thank you for being here.
Students and community members gathered today at the Capitol for a Stop Gun Violence rally. It was moved into Bogie Tower across from the Capitol due to the weather. Activists and elected representatives rallied for what they call common sense gun legislation. There are currently several bills in front of the Senate.
The action is right here in Lansing with the governor who will sign common sense bills, a state house and state senate. The new leadership, the Democrats in the House and Senate will be doing hearings and having a vote. Hopefully this will be bipartisan.
With Democrats controlling state government, officials tell me they are hopeful for change to finally happen and that this should not be a partisan issue. They argued red flag laws, safe storage laws, and universal background checks should be easy choices.
Isn't that just common sense? 11 of our first 100 bills introduced this session are researched and proven measures to reduce gun violence on campuses, in communities, and in homes. And this is not the first time that we've introduced them.
However, gun lobbyists and Republican lawmakers argue that new laws are not the solution, but activists say they are not backing down.
So far in 2023, there have been 58 days and 86 mass shootings in this country.
Our community has come together, as you can see here today, to love each other, grieve together, but now we need to fight together.
That was Nate Salazar reporting. Well, staying with guns, the topic of banning them inside of the state capitol is being discussed again. You may remember a few years ago when dozens of armed militia members went into the Capitol building for a protest, which is legal. But since then, some lawmakers have been looking into changing that. Members of the Capitol Commission recently voted unanimously to develop a new security plan, and it would presumably make the Capitol a gun-free zone. However, police and security officers would be exempt from that rule. A decision could come in the next few weeks. Well, coming up next on the Rundown, we sat down with Gary Peters to talk about new bipartisan legislation that will help fire departments across Michigan. Plus, former Vice President Mike Pence makes a stop here in Michigan. We'll tell you what he had to say next. Senator Gary Peters sat down with the Rundown this week to talk about bipartisan legislation that would extend federal support for local fire departments. He introduced this bill due to the state's current funding program that's set to expire in the coming years. Take a listen.
Well, these two grant programs are just incredibly important for fire departments all throughout mid-Michigan as well as across the state of Michigan. This is a grant program that provides both critical equipment that fire departments can acquire, things like respirators for firefighters when they're going into burning buildings, things like jaws of life that they use in order to help someone who's in a severe car crash get out. And as well as personnel to be able to hire firefighters and train firefighters, particularly to meet minimum staffing levels that are established. And every department's different, needs are different, but most fire departments certainly do not have the resources to meet the full needs of their community. And that's why these grants are so important, but they come to an end. They're set to expire. We have to reauthorize these grants. That's why I'm working in a bipartisan way to do that. And we want to reauthorize them for the next 7 years. So there's some certainty as to what sort of resources are available to them. But these grants are absolutely essential for fire departments all across mid-Michigan. This equipment that firefighters use is sophisticated. And is expensive as a result of that and wears out. And to replace that is a major capital expenditure. And if fire departments are making other major capital expenditures like a fire engine, sometimes all of the other equipment that goes into that fire engine, that price adds up quite a bit. Certainly local taxpayers fund fire departments, but given the needs that our departments have across the state, these federal grants help supplement what local revenues are able to be invested in that particular department. This is something where we can clearly find bipartisan support. We were not able to get this legislation through at the end of last session. We just simply ran out of time, but we have to get this done, so we reauthorize it as quickly as possible. That's why I'm introducing it now. We're in a new congressional session at the start of the year, and I'm hoping to move it very quickly. This is something that our fire departments rely on, and they also need the certainty of the fact that these grants are going to be available for years to come. That's why we've got a 7-year extension, and I'm hoping to get it passed quickly. There's no question fire departments are having difficulty hiring trained firefighters and retaining those firefighters. There's a shortage of individuals with these skills. And so they need to have the resources to be able to go out and hire people to get them onto the firefighting force. So it is a challenge. The same challenge we're seeing with first responders in police departments, we're also seeing in fire departments as well.
Senator Peters, thank you. Well, coming up, we're going to take a look at liability claims that will be examined by the state Supreme Court. Plus, we'll tell you the details of those claims and what they mean for Michigan residents. Please stay tuned. Welcome back. In the next few weeks, the Michigan Supreme Court is expected to hear arguments and testimony involving a Michigan law that helps protect property owners and businesses from liability claims if someone gets hurt on their property. Now, afterwards, the court will then decide if it wants to take up the case. Attorney Brian Waldman is here for you now to explain the open and obvious dangerous doctrine and why he thinks many lawyers think it should be changed or modified in a big way.
In a premises liability case where somebody is suing a property owner, a store owner, someone in possession of property because they get injured due to what they perceive as a dangerous condition, whether it's liquid on the floor that causes them to slip, or a bad stair tread, or a pothole in the parking lot, or snow and ice. Michigan law says that the property owner does not owe any duty to fix that problem or warn of it or do anything if an average person of ordinary intelligence would have recognized that potentially dangerous condition upon casual inspection. And so it's a total relief of any obligation or liability of the landowner And most lawyers, I think, in Michigan are critical of that law. They think it's bad public policy. You know, you're basically telling a store owner or a landowner, if it's bad, you don't need to fix it. In fact, if you make it worse, it'll be easier for the average person to see it, and that will relieve you of any potential liability for failing to maintain your store or property. It's also led to many unfair and very harsh results. I know of at least 2 cases where the courts reported that a blind person fell and was injured on a wet floor or something on a floor in a store, in a large multi-use store, and they alleged it was an unsafe condition. And the courts ruled, and they did it apologetically, that the average person would not be blind. And so the average person would have seen the water on the floor, would have seen the unsafe condition. And one of the cases, I believe, there was evidence that a bathroom where the person fell had not been maintained for 8 days, even though the internal policies clearly said it should be maintained multiple times during a day. And so the courts have said, we're sorry, it's a harsh result, we don't like it, but that's the law of the land, that's the precedent. And we'll have to wait and see what the Supreme Court does after the arguments in early March.
Thank you, Brian. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed legislation this week that would rename and remake Disney's Reedy Creek. Now DeSantis does have the authority to appoint a 5-member board to overlook the changes to the district. During the press conference, he stated that the revamped district would become official June 1st.
I'm going to put my John Hancock on this piece of legislation. That'll make it official. And so just look at your watch and you'll know at what time the corporate kingdom finally came to an end.
Officials say the district's turnover was initiated last year when Disney publicly opposed Don't Say Gay, which bans instruction on sexual orientation. In addition, gender identity lessons between kindergarten and 3rd grade would be barred. So if you're interested in getting more political news from Michigan and Washington, D.C., we do have something for you. You can sign up for our Capitol Rundown newsletter. It's just 1 email each week, and you can get it by pointing your cell phone camera right now at your screen. It will take you to the sign-up page, or you can always head to WLNS.com/newsletters. And that is our show for the week. Thanks for watching the Capitol Rundown. Have a great weekend.